It's so good to be here, and you've been a very patient audience, and it's been wonderful listening to all the speakers before me. I'm so privileged to have the chance of listening to them. I'm going to talk to you today about that really works for me, and I hope at the end of this talk it's going to work for you. Once we accept our limits, we're actually able to go beyond our limits. And that's the fundamental idea and thought that I want to leave with you today. When we try and go beyond our limits, two things happen. The first is exhaustion. It is tiring to be constantly challenging yourself, to be constantly trying to do something that keeps you energized, to constantly question your ability, to make sure that you're not getting intellectually lazy. And as you heard from my introduction, I've been around the block many times. And it's really important, the older you get, to make sure that you have that energy and you don't get exhausted. But what happens is, when you try and go beyond, it actually energizes you. Because it gives you a new way of looking at stuff. It helps you understand that no matter what you've done, there are new frontiers to conquer. It keeps you alive, it keeps you awake at night, but it also makes you live in a manner and fashion where your life becomes incredibly rich. I am, in fact, an incredibly wealthy person. And I say that with a huge amount of pride. I'm not talking about economic wealth. I'm talking about intellectual wealth. I may not have made money in my life, but I have lived my life with such passion and such intensity that every day is fresh, every day is new, every day is a challenge. What happens with us is society encourages us to dream. Society wants us to think within an economic ecosystem. Your parents will encourage you to dream. They will say, dream of a better job, dream of a better salary, dream of promotions. But those are things that are very insubstantial. Because what happens is, every promotion you get, the boundaries keep going beyond. And the problem is, society has a way of containing our dreams, putting them into little boxes, and forcing us to stay within the constraints of that box. Ideally, our dreams should actually be outside the box. Reality should be within the box. The reality that we live in, the reality of the society we are in, the reality of the jobs that we have, that is what needs to be in the box. Because that needs to be contained. That is part of our life, but it's far more critical for us to be able to have dreams that are large dreams, dreams that we can, feel scared of, dreams that keep us awake at night. Because when you have those dreams, then you know that nothing can get you down. I may be a very lucky person, but my beginnings, were with a series of unfortunate incidents. It's like Lemony Snicket, a series of unfortunate incidents. I was keen on advertising from the time I was in school. I knew I wanted to make a career in advertising. It was like something, you wake me up in the middle of the night and say, what do you want to do? I want to be in advertising. I want to be in account services. So here is this young PGDM who's, 36 years ago, gets an interview in one of the biggest agencies at that time. And the head of the business, considered at that point of time one of the industry leaders, speaks to me, interviews me, and at the end of a 1 hour long chat, now obviously if somebody's taken an hour to talk to you, you think it's going well, right? Because otherwise in 5 minutes you're out of there. But he takes an hour, he talks to me, and at the end of that 1 hour, he tells me, you're not cut out for advertising. You might as well go and join travel and tourism, a hotel industry. I mean, I'm saying like, God, what's wrong? Am I completely off my rocker that I want to get into advertising? Should I take his advice seriously? But then that dream that I had, I said, I'm going to take a listing of ad agencies in the country and I'm going to work my way from A to Z. Somebody, somewhere, is going to give me a job. And so I took this directory of ad agencies, which used to be called Infa in those days, and I started. The very first agency on that list was AdPlan. I walked in without an appointment. I managed to convince the owner of the agency that I was a risk worth taking, and I walked out with that job. My second interview, my first job. After that, there's been no looking back. I've had a very, very successful career. I've done account servicing, account planning, I worked in marketing, I worked in media, I set up India's first media planning and buying company, I was managing director of Zee. But all through this, what I understood is that the effort that I had put in was actually preparing me. My career was just a launch pad. And my career was actually just going to be a launching pad for what I would then use as my passion and as my dreams and the kind of things that I wanted to do. When we are in marketing, when we are in advertising, when we study economics, when we study political science, I was talking to one of you today who said, you're a pol science major. We don't realize that every little experience that we have actually counts. And it counts tremendously if you allow it to work for you. A lot of us negate our experience. A lot of us think that the stuff we do is too small and too unimportant. But I'm here to say to you today, nothing is too small. Nothing is unimportant if you extract the full value out of what it is that you do. And it was the objective of extracting this value and doing something that we believed was important, which is what brought Lynn D'Souza and me together. And we launched a communications company called Social Access. Now, Social Access works with NGOs. So it basically took all my years of experience in media and marketing and advertising and said, how can we use this to benefit society? Because let's be very clear. I mean, we saw the model talking about how she wasn't really proud of the modeling that she's done, right? In the working place, there are many times things we do which we're not particularly proud of. But that's life. You can't have a mango without having a nut inside. Thank God for that. Maybe GM will now try and give us a GM mango without a nut inside. But the fact of the matter is, how can you give back to society? How can you put back into society what you've taken out of society? So Lynn and me set up Social Access. And what Social Access does is works with NGOs. It helps them understand. Like this is Kiranbeer Sethi, who runs Design for Change. Some of you may be familiar with her organization. Okay? I love my Tiranga. This is a time in India where we are all getting so polarized. You are either a blind devotee of Namo or you should go to Pakistan. I mean, it is at a time like this when we need to understand that India is much larger than any individual or any political party. And the flag, I love my Tiranga. This is an amazing campaign that has been run for 3 years. Angan, Delight, Icons of Change. These are all programs where we are trying to get people to live their dreams. We are trying to get NGOs, people who have their dreams, and we're trying to make those dreams reality. And this is really what energizes me, keeps me going. I've spent 37 years in the industry, but I just feel it's like yesterday that I've joined this business yesterday. There's still so much to learn. There's still so much to do. And the other thing I'd like to say to you is, human beings flourish when they are multidimensional. You must have a passion. You must have a hobby. You must have interests. You must cook. You must walk. You must run. You must dance. Because these are all expressions of our creative self. And one of the things I did was set up this NGO called Vanshakti in the whole area of environmental conservation. I mean, Chef Brar talked about farmer suicides. One of the reasons why we have farmer suicides today is because farmers are taking loans to buy genetically modified seeds, and for those seeds, they need to have water and they need to have pesticides. I mean, you can actually have traditional seeds, what we call artisanal seeds, and those seeds will thrive with less water. But GMO modified seeds need more water, they need more pesticides. So it's a real vicious cycle. But all you need to do is somewhere pick that one loose thread and unravel the entire story, which is what we did with Vanshakti. We work in an area called Wada, one of the poorest talukas in Palghar district. We work with tribals, Adivasis. We sensitize children to the environment and what their role is in the environment. What we used to find is that a lot of people, tribals, would, at the end of summer, they would burn the forest. And they'd light fire to the forest, and you would end up burning all the grass because they would hunt wildfowl and hare. And then they would be able to get meals out of it. Now, what happens when this takes place is the underbrush burns up. And so when it rains, the water comes cascading down. There's no grass to hold it back, and it cascades down, and you have flash floods. So what we did through the street plays is we actually got the children to tell their parents about why they should not burn. And after 2 years of running street plays there, I'm so pleased to tell you that we right now have 90% reduction in forest fires. In just 2 years. Not only that, what's happened is because there are no forest fires and because now the brush and the grass is growing, we have amazing growth in wildfowl and rabbits. And the Adivasis now are going and catching these wildfowl and rabbits with snares and with bows and arrows. So they are getting their protein, but they're protecting the environment. All you need, actually, is just a perspective. And this is where the fundamental problem is. Unfortunately, all of us human beings live under the mistaken impression that we are not powerful. You don't know how incredibly powerful each and every one of you is. It's only when you realize your power, you realize that yes, I actually have the power to do good and the power to do bad. I mean, it's in you. If you get the right perspective and if you're able to have a macro view, which is again another very important thing because very often we don't have a macro view. And that macro view is critical. It's critical because that's how we learn to actually benefit society and how we learn to benefit from society and from communities. So all you need is a macro view. All you need is the ability to say, I want to step beyond my comfort, beyond the stuff that I'm used to doing. Our professional lives are nothing but a building block for our personal lives. And when we are able to make the personal and the professional truly integrate into each other, that's when we end up thinking that we are enjoying what we do and we stop treating it as work. One of the biggest problems today is that people think there's a wall between their work, their professional lives and their personal lives. Actually, it's one whole life. And that's the way you need to see it. And that's what I'd like to end this with, okay? Today, when I look around me sometimes, my time has come. For me, every day is a blessing now. But when I look around me, sometimes I get very, very dismayed by the situation in the country, by the political situation, by the economic situation. While all of us are, benefiting from economic growth and development, there are millions of people out there whose lives have got worse. With climate change now, we're going to see even more damage. And so sometimes I get very dismayed when I think of the future. I think of the fact that your children, okay, my generation and the generations before me have destroyed the future of your children. Your children are not going to have clean air to breathe. Your children are not going to have spring water to drink. Your children are going to find it very difficult to get nature's bounty. You'd probably have to have chemical concoctions rather than nature's bounty. And that worries me. But you know what keeps me going? The fact that among you also, there are dreamers. And among you, there will be those with the courage to look beyond and make this world a better place. Thank you.